Inweng tagayni enweng napasyali matana lomsuman. Akayakom es mongle ashos kamofal esukomines be vitamin nasum. Karngin gubsifena in niceness in tia apasyali. O about the gungom na yen, tia kalmotom, infame, inwelum, e aknasnas yen komatakyan. Inaksafye ako la. Arela emergency contact list lom, aroy nash mo aknasnas ka onno in nomsuman, nakarangin in jash mit masin nomsuman. Aro makuno minako ye aknasnas yen kuam in niceness ain safe. Nanakmanas matana in nomsuman. Message saying e masin manyatlo, Micronesian Research Center at Choice Broadcasting.
U.S. Customs seizing a shipment of goods from China over possible human rights violations.
In this nearly 13-ton shipment seized in Newark, hair weaves and extensions from China that U.S. officials suspect are made from human hair. Customs officials say they're still analyzing the origins of this cargo, though intercepted it based on information indicating prison labor in Xinjiang, China, produced it. A spokesman for the National Security Council says, quote, if this highly suspicious 13-ton shipment of human hair indeed turns out to be linked to the Uyghur concentration camps, then this is a new low, even for the Chinese Communist Party. And they will have to answer to the world community for their actions.
Fox's Rich Edson, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the administration is committed to cracking down on unfair or illegal Chinese trade policies.
The way previous administrations have dealt with the Chinese Communist Party by turning the other cheek and letting them abuse America is not going to continue. So we've responded across a number of fronts. So you identify one, this forced labor. Nobody wants to buy products, cheap products that were made with slave labor in Western China. They want clarity about the tracing of the product that they have. And so we've asked every business to evaluate their supply chain and make sure that nothing like that ever gets in.
Secretary Pompeo and Fox's special report with Brett Baer. Music City, USA moving to stop prosecuting people for pot.
If you're caught possessing less than half an ounce of marijuana in the city of Nashville, Tennessee, don't be expected to be prosecuted. Nashville District Attorney General Glenn Funk making the announcement, saying marijuana charges disproportionately affect the minority community. According to data, the change is also expected to decrease court and jail costs. The city already tried to decriminalize small possession of pot, but the state of Tennessee shut that down. Nashville's mayor, John Cooper, supports the DA's plan. John Saucier, Fox News.
And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro in Hagåtña and Tumon are now open for takeout and free delivery services in selected locations. For more information, call 479-2652 or 3 or 969-2652. Open Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro brings you island hospitality with the true taste of modern Chamorro cuisine at the comforts of your own home. They take your favorite local dishes and serve them with extra flair you will only find at Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
Everyone has a busy schedule these days, and sometimes we forget to schedule our routine dental checkup and cleaning. Don't neglect your dental health. Schedule one today with Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile team, conveniently located at the East West Business Center on Marine Drive, Upper Tumon. Call us today at 647-8702 or 3. Again, that's 647-8702 or 647-8703. We make smiles happen.
Hoffaday, this is Kayla from APL Guam. Here at APL, our expertise and extensive network can help you grow your business and reach out to more markets. As a responsible carrier, APL is also committed to a sustainable future, whether it's protecting the environment or investing our efforts in giving back to the community. Our dedicated team in Guam and the U.S. mainland are here to support you. Call 588-4651 or visit apl.com.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific. Banking on the Pacific for 65 years. Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is also brought to you by Security Title. When you absolutely need confidentiality in your real estate transactions.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Ever. Here we are again, the last day of the week for Tall Tales this week. We kind of feel like we got gypped because the real Joe Cruz and I come in here on Monday afternoon at 1600 and we're raring to go for 5 whole days of Tall Tales. We love every minute of it. And this week it's only 4 days of Tall Tales. So we're going to have to tough it out tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, all day Monday up until 1600. Jones isn't the word for it, but we'll somehow struggle through it. And you can bet your bottom dollar that we'll be back Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock, 1600, ready to go with a whole week of Tall Tales. So let's wrap up the last day of this week, as we usually do. Every day we'll start with Demi Ikotny. So today it's the same old story with the Daily News. The Daily News seems to have a prejudice against local editorials. They run a local editorial about once every 2 months or so, whether they need to or not. Otherwise, it's usually some claptrap that they pick up from some boilerplate from USA Today or Gannett News Service. Well, today they were true to form. They didn't run a local editorial, but they do have a fairly good columnist, a guy named John David, who is an editor at The Federalist. So at least they're not going to follow their usual pattern of USA Today boilerplate bashing Trump. So in light of that, and in light of the fact that the editorial makes a certain amount of sense, and it lays a threshold for something that I want to take off on, I'm actually going to pay some attention to the Daily News editorial. I know you're shocked and amazed there, real Joe Cruz.
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah, but you'll get over it. We'll write it on out. So John Davidson says, don't destroy monuments. Today in America, a radical mob is tearing down monuments and demanding military bases be renamed. It isn't about fighting racism or removing symbols of slavery. It's about tearing our country apart. Let me read that sentence again. It isn't about fighting racism or removing symbols of slavery. It's about tearing our country apart. We know this because the woke mob isn't just after Confederate statues, as you were statues. Yeah, they're not tearing down statutes yet. They'll wait a minute. They'll wait till they get back in control of the Congress for that. We know this because the woke mob isn't just going after Confederate statues. It's going after monuments and namesakes that span from Christopher Columbus to George Washington to Theodore Roosevelt. They haven't gotten to Franklin Roosevelt yet. If they're looking for someone who was racially tainted, he's the guy that locked up 20,000 Japanese in internment camps, many of whom were United States citizens, but Democrats don't want to talk about that. Back to the piece by John Davidson. Recently, a mob in San Francisco pulled down a monument to Ulysses S. Grant for the crime of having briefly owned a slave. Never mind that Grant led the Union Army to victory against the slave states of the Confederacy, or that he freed his one slave before the war broke out. Grant has been canceled, along with other Union leaders like Admiral David Farragut and General George Thomas, whose statues were recently defaced by vandals. The mob has also targeted statues of abolitionists like Matthias Baldwin, whose monument in front of Philadelphia City Hall was painted with, quote, murderer. And something even worse than that, Real Joe Cruz. I mean, they really called him something really, really bad. They called him a murderer.
No way.
And then they called him something worse than that.
A liberal?
Colonizer.
Oh, colonizer.
Yeah, colonizer's a lot worse than, much worse than murderer, right? Never mind that Baldwin fought slavery, defended black voting rights, and helped establish a school for black children. Clearly, there's no limiting principle here. That's why monuments to George Washington and Thomas Jefferson have been pulled down, and why some are calling for a statue of Abraham Lincoln in Washington to come down. The reason there's no limiting principle is that the people pulling down and defacing these statues believe America itself is racist, not just the Confederate leaders. Based on their logic, there's no reason not to dynamite Mount Rushmore or blow up the Lincoln Memorial. They're all symbols of America's endemic racism. Rather than accede to this racial interpretation of history, we should try to educate our fellow citizens. And I'm going to interrupt here and say, no, we've got to do more than that, because you can't, it's hard to educate someone who has drunk the neo-Marxist Kool-Aid. And that's what's powering this whole thing. The neo-Marxist takeover of America. But I'll get to back to that later. Monuments and place names should be part of that education. What glorifies in one generation simply and profoundly reminds in another. Monuments to the best of us remind us of our high ideals, and monuments to the worst of us remind us what not to repeat. But above all, we should reject the false vision of American history touted by the mob. For all our faults, past and present, the United States is the greatest champion of liberty and equality in the history of the world. Now, I'm going to go back here to that part that I jumped in on. Rather than accede to this radical interpretation of history, we should try to educate our fellow citizens. Now, I have another piece here from a guy named Daniel Hull, and I'm going to tell you what I want to see after I finished Daniel's piece. And he said, his title of his post in a website called Red State, "The Republic probably isn't fixable." We've watched over the last month or so as the unhinged left has attempted to assert control over our country by rioting, looting, and setting up autonomous zones where lawlessness and tyranny reign. We've seen blue state governors declare that visitors from red states must be quarantined if they visit their states. We've seen the demonizing of police and attempts to normalize the threat of force as a political tool. We've seen attempts to eliminate conservatives from social media and to drive them from the public square. What does all this mean? It means, he says, in my opinion, that we've reached the point where our problems cannot be resolved at the ballot box. Consider the two possible outcomes of November's election. On one hand, if Trump is reelected, the left will increase their physical violence against conservatives and the structure of civil society in an attempt to overthrow him. You think this is hyperbole? The left and their deep state fellow travelers attempted a soft coup, working assiduously over the course of 3 years to overturn the results of the 2016 election. Even before Trump's possible re-election, they are openly using violence to destroy the republic. If you think this is going to get better if Trump is re-elected, you are, an interesting phrase here, you are bat excrement crazy mistaken. Do you know what that means, Real Joe Cruz? Bat excrement.
Yes, sir.
Crazy mistaken.
It's something to do with guano.
Very good, Real Joe Cruz. Okay. On the other hand, if Biden is elected, the left will attempt to overthrow the republic itself by first disarming those who would protect it, and then, to quote the narcissist nitwit from Nairobi, fundamentally transforming it into a socialist hellhole. The First Amendment will mean nothing. Congress will pass a law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. Freedom of speech will be abridged as unapproved speech becomes hate speech. Are you listening, Doug? Are you listening, Jim Moylan? Free speech will be abridged as unapproved speech because hate speech, punishable by arrest and jail time. When you start horsing around with this hate crime legislation, James Walk-Mylan, you are opening the door to this whole hate speech phenomenon. And I think I've explained this before, but to the Marxists out there, the neo-Marxists, the cultural Marxists, the far left, hate speech is violence. And violence can be met by violence. So if someone says something that's hate speech, then it's okay to go punch him in the nose, because hate speech is violence, and violence sometimes must be met by violence. I'll give you an example of what hate speech is. Probably 90% of what I say on this program, on your program. Things like marriage is one man and one woman united in a sacramental or civil ceremony, one of the objects of which is propagation of the race, that is, raising children. That's hate speech. So, if I said that in the wrong quarters and I caught a baseball bat right across the schnoz, I would have no one to blame but myself. Freedom of the press will be suppressed with the, quote, fairness doctrine unequally applied. The right of conservatives to peaceably assemble will be eliminated in favor of leftist riots and looting. We've seen that already. The Second Amendment will only apply to shotguns that can hold fewer than 20 clips. What's the solution? In an ideal world, those who are no longer our countrymen would be reachable with logic and reason. They would be able to see that their actions have consequences. They would refrain from actions that make things more likely to deteriorate further. In the world that we actually live in, where every Democrat is a delusional hysteric who has lost all touch with objective reality, that's not going to happen. In a somewhat less ideal world, the two sides would work on an amiable separation. The rotten coasts could form their own People's Republic of Socialist Wackistan and Eastern Coastal Workers' Paradise, where they would be free to continue their descent into madness unopposed. The sane folks of the free states could stick with a constitutional republic of limited government and the rule of law, and we could all sort itself out. But like the idea of leftists, as you were leftists, listening to logic, this also isn't going to happen. Not because of the sane folks, but because of the progressives absolutely cannot stand allowing anyone to live here you go. Anyone to live their own life in their own way. You kind of got crossed up on your vocabulary there, Daniel Hull. Let me help you here. Let me rephrase that. Not because of sane folks, but because of progressives absolutely cannot allow anyone to live his own life in his own way. Or as an alternative, her own life in her own way. but anyone is singular. There is plural. So if you're going to be a conservative, you got to kind of write like a conservative, Daniel. Going back to what Daniel says, their narcissism insists that they must be in charge of everyone and be able to tell them what to say, do, and think. A year ago, I would have put this last possibility as a distant, unlikely outcome. But at this point, I am both expecting and preparing for a civil war. It will likely be short and very, very bloody for progressives. But they aren't going to listen to reason. They aren't going to leave us alone. And we aren't going to stop pushing until some of them get shot. As a veteran who's seen war, I don't look forward to this. I dread it. But at this point, I can't really see any other workable option except surrender of our lives, our liberty, and our sacred honor. And that's something I will not do. Well, Mr. Daniel Howell goes me one better when it comes to exaggeration. And I suspect that he has his own. Beep that horn a couple times there, Real Joe Cruz. I suspect he has his own horn. You just can't hear it when you're reading his stuff, right? But sometimes people, myself included, will exaggerate for effect to make things even clearer than they ought to be. And let's give him credit for exaggerating for effect. But he makes extremely good points. This is not going to get better. This is kind of like my prognostication on where we are with the Wuhan virus. This is not one of those things where we can just wait and we'll get back to normality. It's not going to happen. We've crossed a bridge that we're not going to be able to cross back over to where we were before. And this is what I would like to see. Going back to the editorial in the Post, as you were in the Daily News, rather than accede to this radical interpretation of history, we should try to educate our fellow citizens. Now, educate is just not a strong enough word. I think we're going to have to do things like argue with our fellow citizens. We're going to have to convince our fellow citizens. Because if you've been following the news in the United States and some of the things I've been saying here and doing a little cruising around on the internet, you'll see that Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with its stated purpose. George Floyd is just a handy convenience that allows Black Lives Matter to open the cage and let the lions and tigers out. It's about rioting, looting, arson, etc. And the object is not just to destroy statues. The object is to destroy the country. So this is what I think has to happen if we're ever going to be able to hang on to our republic. And Daniel says the republic probably isn't fixable. Well, it won't be fixable unless every one of us picks up a pair of pliers and a screwdriver and starts fixing it. This is what I think has to happen. Most people are in the country and on island, most people are spectators. They're sitting watching all this go by as though they're watching Netflix or something like that. And when they see these really bad things happen, they say, well, gee, yeah, that's bad stuff, yeah. I'm glad this is just a movie. Meaning, I'm glad this isn't actually happening to me right now. But it isn't a movie. It is really happening. And we have, we've got this Black Lives Matter outfit that was started by 3 confessed neo-Marxists. They are Marxists. You just go to their website, and they'll tell you what it is that they're about. And if all of a sudden we woke up tomorrow and there was a vaccine for the Wuhan virus, and all of a sudden we woke up tomorrow and everybody, there was something that happened to everyone's eyes, so that no matter what they were looking at, no matter what skin color they were looking at, it would always look the same. In other words, something would happen that people would be incapable of racism. That wouldn't stop these guys, because they're not about racism. They're about overthrowing the democratic government of the United States and establishing their Marxist paradise. Now, that's the kind of thing that a lot of people are going to say, no, I don't think so. When what they really mean is, I don't want to think about that. Not, I don't think so, but, ooh, I don't want to think about that. What's for supper? So in order for us to get a hold of things, everybody out there in the international radio listening audience, and everyone who is in contact with every one of those folks and their confidants need to get involved here. The best example I can give you is white coats for Black Lives Matter. Now, when that happened, I explained the phrase that is often attributed to Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, which is useful idiots. And a useful idiot, I have the definition right here. In political jargon, a useful idiot is a derogatory term for a person perceived as propagandizing for a cause without fully comprehending the cause's goals, and who is cynically used by the cause's leaders. Well, the Marxists, the neo-Marxists behind Antifa and Black Lives Matter have made very good use of useful idiots. And I would submit that that's exactly what white coats for Black Lives Matter is. They don't, I suspect none of them, if you ask them, do you know who Patrice Cullors is? No, is she a doctor? Is she? No, she's one of the Marxist founders of Black Lives Matter. So, it's one of those kinds of things where, well, yeah, I think it's good that black people not be treated badly, and I think this is what it's about, so I'm going to go down and support it. Well, you support it, you get some national press, and it tends to, in a small way, admittedly, but in a small way, build up the momentum for this group that is setting out to destroy the country. So let me come back to this right after this short break.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at GuamTraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
As we stand up to coronavirus by standing back with social distancing, Bank Pacific reminds you that you can come to the bank without going to the bank. Use many of our other delivery platforms like online banking at bankpacific.com, accessing cash at our ATMs, shopping with our debit cards. For businesses, we have secure cash and check drop windows, and we are employing a new smarter mobile app with remote deposit capture in the next few weeks. We're all in this together, and together we will win. Bank Pacific. Brothers but branches, we place roots. Member FDIC.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. They're open in Agotnia for dine-in, takeout, and delivery services from Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Call them at 479-2652 and get your Mezcla fix today.
We now return to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, soaring over the confusion with his superpowers of truth. Call 888-TALK. That's 888-825-55.
So here we are, back again after that short break, and I'm still on Zimmy and Cotney. I'm still doing what started out with the Daily News, and I'm still haranguing about Black Lives Matter and neo-Marxism and letting everyone know what I would like to see. It's a free country. Everyone can do what he wants to do. Wait, I screwed that up, didn't I?
You did, sir.
Yeah, everyone can do what they want to, including making fools of themselves by using they instead of he or she, if that turns them on. I do it for comedy effect. But if you want to do it, that's fine. But what I'm saying is the only way this neo-Marxist takeover is going to stop is that people began to see that just being a spectator on all this stuff is actually being of assistance. Because if every one of us, picked up and figured out what's going on and kind of clued in what appear to be useful idiots, maybe there wouldn't be so many of them, and maybe we would have a chance of hanging on to the greatest country, not only the greatest country in the world right now, but as far as I can tell from my readings of history, the greatest country the world has ever seen, which is not good enough for the neo-Marxists. They want to tear it down and build a socialist paradise. So I think I probably already know, but I'm going to see what R. Carl has to say about this, and from there I'm going to go to Frenchie. Good afternoon, R. Carl.
Hey, good afternoon, Bob. Yeah, I just wanted to chime in on what you were talking about. I've said before, and I'll keep repeating it, that the people behind the local movement they're extremely sophisticated and studied in their methods. And I know one of the people that they've studied is the works of Saul Alinsky. He's like the godfather of leftist radicalism. And ironically, I enjoy several different authors. Two of the ones I respect the most, ironically, are both former Marxists. One of them is our favorite economist and social philosopher, Thomas Sowell. The other one is David Horowitz. David Horowitz is unique in that when he was born, he was what is called a red diaper baby. He was born to two card-carrying communist parents. And for the first few decades of his life, he was a committed and radical leftist, a Marxist, a full-on Marxist. He wrote many books after he departed from the movement, and he's hated by the left. He's viewed as a turncoat. He wrote a small booklet which is packed with information called Rules for Revolution. And I'll just read a quick quote out of it. Any revolutionary change must be preceded by passive, affirmative, non-challenging attitude toward change among the mass of our people. In other words, it is first necessary to sell the people on change itself, the audacity of hope, and yes, you can. You do this by proposing moderate changes which open the door to your radical agendas. Remember, once you organize people around something as commonly agreed upon as pollution, then an organized people is on the move. From there, it's a short and natural step to political pollution, to Pentagon pollution, etc. And he was doing some quoting there from Saul Alinsky. And these are very sophisticated people. There's a principle in persuasion called commitment and consistency, that once you get people to commit and to agree to a small part of your agenda, an easy part, it's that much easier to move to the next and ratchet it up little by little. So we don't realize that we are being manipulated by some very sophisticated operators, and I can recognize it very, very easily. Alinsky's most famous work is Rules for Radicals, and you've commented once to me that it's not really necessary to read the entire book, but it's very helpful to know the principles. And there's a very useful article about the 13 principles in Wikipedia if someone types in the Rules for Radicals. There's what's one of the links that pops up. But anyway, I just wanted to reemphasize that nothing about this is accidental or organic. It's all strategic. It's not magical that a Marxist organization like BLM just happens to show up on Guam and gets hundreds of people to kneel to their agenda. There's nothing accidental about that. It's all strategic. Anyway, that's my comment. I'll listen in on Frenchie, who always has something interesting to say.
Okay, Carl. Well, I agree. Once again, good points. Thanks for calling. And then we have our friend Frenchie. Good afternoon, Frenchie.
Good afternoon, Judge. How are you?
I'm fine.
Yeah. Well, you're nailing it on the head again. What's very interesting is that none of what's happening now is new, because a lot of the people that were pushing these things back in the 60s, who are now late septuagenarian or people about your age, that were leftists at the time, they wrote extensively on it. Actually, I have 3 books under my eyes. One is from 68, 69, and 1970, so it's almost a historical one step at the time. You have teaching as a subversive activity, which I think is probably one of Underwood's bedside reading books, which is a no-hold-bar assault on outdated teaching methods by Postman and Weingartner, which was published, I think, I'm not sure, Dell Publishing, who was a leftist East Coast publisher, has disappeared now. Another book, very interesting, Coup d'Etat, a practical handbook by Edward Lutwak, another Trotskyist that was very active in the 60s. And then finally, Do It, which is interesting because this is also the slogan of, what's the name of that outfit in Oregon, that's written by Jerry Rubin. I'm sure everybody remember that name from the 60s, and was a preface introduction by Helridge Cleaver. So all those leftists were all Trotskyists, were already writing about that 50 plus years ago, and it's basically a how to uphand the country. And what's very interesting is that all those people have always been manipulated by our most famous so-called intelligence agency, who was also involved in dealing drugs in Vietnam and Laos, which is known by 3 little letters. And it's very interesting because all those writings basically updated for modern technology now is exactly the methods they've used under Clinton in Yugoslavia, and then most recently under Obama on the Maidan Plaza occupation in Kiev, which led to the ousting of the Ukrainian government. And basically now all those things have come back home to roost. And so one has to try to figure out why is it that the Democratic Party is using BLM, which is nothing else but a bet and switch organization. They attract people with one thing, and basically they switch the script, and which has been shown to also divert their funds to finance other causes, including the running for Joe Biden and other campaigns in the Congress, and also to enrich themselves. And I'm surprised that the IRS has not looked into it yet, but then usually it's Democrats like Franklin Delano Roosevelt or Obama that seek the IRS on their opponents. Very seldom a Republican. Actually, I don't know about a Republican. As a historical note, which is very interesting, you mentioned that they went after Ulysses S. Grant statue because he owned, according to them, a slave, which is actually not historically true. He inherited the slave when he married his wife, who was a Southerner. And he was kind of embarrassed about that. And the first thing he did was give him his paper and free him. So actually, Ulysses S. Grant never owned a slave. He got the slave from his wife in his marriage. And as soon as he learned about it, he liberated it. So it's, once again, typical leftist bet and switch where, you know, they take one little thing. It reminds me a lot about what Bevacqua does in the PDN in his things. You know, they take one little incident, totally take it out of its context and argue it for their own thing. And historically, it's a fallacy of the worst kind, you know. So here we are, you know, it's like deja vu all over again, like Yogi Berra used to say. No, he used to say deja vu, but it's in French it's deja vu. And so that was my piece for the day today.
Very good, Frenchie.
And yeah, and then, you know, with Underwood running for office, he is the leading demagogue on Guam and one of the most dangerous people in pushing that identity politics. And now he's going after the young generation of Democrats. But those old Democrats, you know, don't forget who they were. They were the one of Jim Crow and all those people. This is what Underwood represents here. He's a demagogue and he's a dangerous racialist. I'm not saying he's a racist. I say he's a racialist. He's using race as a policy, and very, very dangerous. So I think we need definitely to keep our eyes and ears open and push back. I wish the Republican Party on the island would grow some cojones, like they say in Spanish, but I'm afraid so far they are not very good at it. So.
Okay, Frenchie. Well, very, as usual, very enlightening. Thanks for sharing with us this afternoon.
Yeah. If you want to find those books, I know on Amazon they still have them sometime. It's a good insight on the way those people are thinking and the way they operate, because they are basically how-to books on how to deconstruct a society.
What was the title of the first one, Frenchie?
Teaching as a Subversive Activity.
Pitching.
Teaching, yeah. Yeah.
And that's by whom?
That's by Neil Postman and Charles Weingartner, and it was published by a thing that no longer exists, which was called Dell Publishing. I think they were out in Boston or something like that. But I have a hard copy if you wish to borrow it one day. It's kind of interesting.
Okay, thank you, Frenchie.
Since you used to teach.
Right.
I'm sure you would be very interested.
Right on. Thanks again, Frenchie.
You're welcome, and you have a great 4th of July.
Thank you, sir.
All right, bye-bye.
You've got a job to do. Having the right equipment for the job is critical, and East West Rental has the exact tools you need. Get it done faster with the right stuff, whether it's landscaping tools, concrete tools, lifts, trucks, lights, generators, trench boxes, welders, tents, tables, and chairs. They're here to help you tackle any project you're working on, big or small. Open Monday to Saturday, 7 to 5, closed Sundays. Find what you're looking for at East West Rental Center in Upper Tumont or call 646-1463.
GRMC's cardiology department treats most complex heart problems. In our catheterization lab, cardiologists use imaging equipment to treat clogged arteries that can cause heart attacks or heart failure. We perform balloon angioplasty, stenting, and other life-saving cardiac procedures. If you suffer from a heart condition, have your provider refer you to GRMC's cardiology clinic at 645-5500. GRMC, where patients are partners.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Yeah, I never get tired of that song. The Entertainer from The Sting. Great song. Good choice, Real Joe Cruz.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so then we look at the editorial in the Post. Schools should not end up as diploma mills as a result of Wuhan virus. And it reads more like a news story than it does an editorial. It talks about the different plans of how they're going to conduct school, 100% learning from home, 100% home learning on a paper-based curriculum, traditional face-to-face classes in school, but allowing only 1/3 of students on any given day, school day on campus. Students will be divided into 3 groups, and each group of students will be on campus once or twice a week, depending on the schedule. Well, I'm going to say, why don't we just open the schools and let the kids come to school? Wouldn't that make a whole lot more sense? You know, some things are kind of perishable, and a year in a kid's education is one of those things. You know, if 4th grade turns out to be a 0 because he's trying to stumble along at home or horse around with a computer, he never gets that year back. So I think we're doing our kids a really big disservice by not opening the schools and getting back to business as usual with the schools. I know about, the Wuhan virus, it's going to get us all, et cetera, but everything I read suggests that kids of school age are not very vulnerable to the Wuhan virus. It's old duffers like me, people like me here on the threshold of geezerhood are the ones that have something to worry about. So let's put them in special programs where they only get to go out twice a week or something like that. But let's not short-circuit our kids. So I'm going to go straight to the punchline here in this on this editorial, if I can find it. There's a lot to discuss with this new way of providing education to Guam's public school students. Superintendent John Fernandez on Wednesday said there will be more discussions and more outreach efforts in the community. These discussions are a good integral part of what we as a community need to invest time in. In these discussions, we should also ask these questions to elected officials, like Luis Muñoz. Well, maybe not. Maybe not so much. The Education Board, G2E, parents, guardians, and others who care about the future of school children. Are these 3 options the best we can do? Are there more efforts we ought to explore with the best interests of the school children in mind? I think I like the headline of the editorial better than I like the editorial. And the headline says, schools should not end up as diploma mills as a result of Wuhan virus. In other words, a kid stays home, he brings he's got these paper lessons, he turns them in, et cetera, and at the end of his schooling, he learns absolutely nothing, but he's got a nice certificate that says he went to school. I think we're seeing too much of that already. We don't need to really go farther down that path. So a lot of competition today, Post. No blue star for the Post. Competition primarily from me and Daniel. What was his name? Daniel Hull. But it's easier to write good editorials when you pick on subjects that are a little bit controversial. All right, let's see what I got here. I got another Joe at just 9 minutes to the big halftime show, and another Joe finally chimes in. So another Joe, I can only let you have about 8 minutes up until that big halftime show, but go for it.
Hopefully I don't take that long. Okay, so here's an idea. What about recruiting more nurses, right? Spend a lot of money in recruiting new nurses, and each public school is part clinic training, right? For like the senior year or whatever, the last year of nursing, right, where they're about to graduate, and they have like almost like an apprenticeship program, maybe. They have that over at GCC. So they rotate them into these each public school, elementary grade school, about their last year where they're about to graduate, and they get hands-on practice, and all of the kids go through the motions of being tested for Wuhan COVID-19 virus or anything for that matter, and on almost a daily basis, right? So we know at the very beginning or at the moment that they get a code or whatever, right? We know, and it's documented, and they send them home, and they prescribe whatever medical treatment or doctor's appointment is required, and at the same time we're training the professional healthcare career field here in Guam. How's that sound so far, Bob?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's a pretty good idea, another Joe.
So it's basically an apprenticeship program at all of the elementary, middle school, high school, all of the schools. Anyway, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, another Joe. Well, so we have the another Joe plan that we can add into the mix here. Another Joe wants to use our training facilities where we train nurses and others as a supply source for testers so that we could greatly increase our ability to test kids at school so that when the rare child that is positive shows up positive, we take him out and send him on quarantine. Interesting idea, another Joe. Thank you for calling. Okay, so let's see. It's 6 minutes to 5. We finally get to the card, and Oh, thank you, Real Joe Cruz. And on today's card, we've got, the repeaters, Troy versus Janella, Tina versus Emergency, Louise Munya versus Unemployment, the Archdiocese of Agana versus the Pacific Daily News, New York Times versus America, the Earned Income Tax Credit versus Michael San Nicolas, and if we get to it, Bavacqua versus Joe Murphy. I feel kind of bad about skipping over Henry Luis Baza, also known as Winston Wolfe, but I don't have anything to add to the whole Port 7 picture. I won't, I suppose, until, today is July 2, so the Wolf was supposed to go before the Civil Service Commission to defend the port today. However, the Wolf was able to persuade the Board of Spelunkers to settle all 4 remaining cases. So we'll just have to watch and see how the Wolf handles this one. The Wolf being Warren Wolf. And refresh your recollection. Remember Harvey Keitel as Warren Wolf? Of course you do. His appearance in Pulp Fiction as the Fixer, the cleaner who knew how to take care of Jules and Vincent's mistakes, was a model of efficiency under pressure, a no-nonsense performer who got the job done with style. So we didn't realize it at the time that Takani Joe Sinahara ran away from the port and Luis Baza was brought in. We didn't realize that he was actually Warren Wolf, this really slick fixer, but now we know. Okay, so going on, the first item on the card, Janela, as you were, Troy versus Janela, and it has been now 47 days since Crystal Paco came along and eliminated the necessity for Janela to apologize and said that the muting and cutting off of reporters would not happen again. Well, it's been 47 days, and it hasn't happened again. So, but we're going to keep an eye on it for you. Tina's up to 18 days. It's been 18 days since Tina detected something that was a serious danger to the public health or safety of the people of such a dimension that Tina would have to give a certificate that no public hearing was necessary on a bill coming before the legislature. Tina's done that about 4 times here in the last couple of months. The first 3 times on bills to double the pay of government employees. That's certainly something that affects the public health and safety, whether or not government employees are going to get double pay. And then next we have Luis Muñoz versus unemployment. And you'll recall that Luis got some really good media coverage, which of course is what any incumbent running for re-election is looking for, some earned media. Well, Louise got some real earned media here when she applied for unemployment, and then it was determined that she wasn't eligible. And I've got the PNC story here. She said, Muñoz said, despite making $55,000 a year as a senator, that the loss, well, I'm going to have to come back to Luis Muñoz versus unemployment right after that big halftime show that you've been looking forward to.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
More cuts in police budgets. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. City Council in Los Angeles voting to cut $150 million from the LAPD.
It's not defunding the police, as so many protesters demanded in the aftermath of George Floyd's death. It's more a reallocation of about 8% of an almost $2 billion LAPD budget. Still, leaders of the police union say any budget cuts are a mistake.
Reporter Phil Schuman of LA's Fox 11. The cuts will result in the number of officers patrolling the streets in Los Angeles lower than it's been in a decade. Occupiers who've held a city park in New York demanding cuts in the NYPD say Tuesday night's billion-dollar cut isn't enough. They say they'll stay until more cuts are made, and they're acting out.
Protesters painted over NYPD security cameras. They put up anti-police slogans. They defaced court buildings, including a municipal building named after Mayor Dinkins, the city's first African-American mayor.
Fox's Brian Yennis in an exclusive interview with the Fox Business Network. President Trump reacting to the cuts.
I'm a big fan of New York's finest. We call him New York's finest policeman. And what he's done to that group of incredible men and women is very sad.
Mayor Bill de Blasio has ordered Black Lives Matter painted on Fifth Avenue in large yellow letters near the Trump Tower. Vice President Mike Pence in Arizona yesterday. The state has seen the highest rate of new cases of the coronavirus in the U.S.
Anyone in Arizona who's had the coronavirus and fully recovered, contact your local Red Cross, donate blood so that you can be a part of providing that what's called convalescent plasma to people that we've also seen promising results.
And the vice president says the federal government is sending an additional 500 medical personnel to Arizona to help out. America is listening to Fox News.
There's never been a more critical time. Fox News Media is bringing America together. America.
Oro magunom, matana lom suman kumin healthy and lessness. Karingin kumniki mitsaye nakshike sinjing kinyen fashil klon ma saying Hinwang takani and wang napashali, matana lom suman. Akayakom is mongle ashos kamofal as sukumines be vitamin nasum. Karingin gubsifena in niceness in tia apashali. O about the kungum somnayen, tia kalmotom, infame, in welum, e aknasnas yen kumatakyan. Inaksafye akola. Arela emergency contact list lom, aroy nash mo aknasnas ka onlo in nom suman. Nakarangin in jash mit masin nom suman. Aro makuno minako ye aknasnas yen kuam in niceness and safe. Nanakmanas matanay nom suman. Message saying ye masin manyatlo.
All of the Confederate statues on city land in Richmond, Virginia have been ordered to be taken down. One of them has been already.
The assembled crowd showing its approval as crews unfasten the statue of Confederate General Stonewall Jackson from the pedestal it stands on in a city park. Mayor LeVar Stoney said he made the decision in part to protect people from being injured trying to pull the statues down, but he also wanted racial healing to begin in his city. Council members were planning to vote Thursday, but Mayor Stoney used powers of his office to act a day early. Many people, including President Trump, have said the historic statues, including divisive ones, should be protected. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Mississippi has formally retired the last state flag in the country with the Confederate battle emblem on it. Dozens of people watched and many applauded as flags were removed from the state capitol in Jackson Wednesday and taken to the Museum of Mississippi History. An Amazon driver has made his last delivery.
It's a sentiment many Americans have felt while working long hours.
Take this job and shove it.
A Detroit area Amazon delivery driver reached his breaking point while hauling a van full of packages. Derek Lancaster abandoned his vehicle mid-shift, tweeting, "Full of gas with the keys in the ignition." Later telling Fox Business he could no longer keep working 13-hour days as more Americans rely on deliveries in the age of COVID. Many Americans also empathizing with Derek's decision to walk off the job. His tweet has received more than 250,000 likes.
I ain't working here no more.
Tom Graham, Fox News.
The Democrat-controlled House has approved a $1.5 trillion plan to rebuild the nation's crumbling infrastructure, fix roads and bridges, upgrade transit systems, and spend $100 billion on internet access for rural and low-income communities. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro in Haggadah and Tuman are now open for takeout and free delivery services in selected locations. For more information, call 479-2652 or 3 or 969-2652. Open Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro brings you island hospitality with the true taste of modern Chamorro cuisine at the comforts of your own home. They take your favorite local dishes and serve them with extra flair you will only find at Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
Half a day. This is Michelle from APL Guam. Here at APL, our expertise and extensive network can help you grow your business and reach out to more markets. As a responsible carrier, APL is also committed to a sustainable future, whether it's protecting the environment or investing our efforts in giving back to the community. Our dedicated teams in Guam and on the U.S. mainland are here to support you. Call 588-4651 or visit apl.com.
You've got a job to do. Having the right equipment for the job is critical, and East West Rental has the exact tools you need. Get it done faster with the right stuff, whether it's landscaping tools, concrete tools, lifts, trucks, lights, generators, trench boxes, welders, tents, tables, and chairs. They're here to help you tackle any project you're working on, big or small. Open Monday to Saturday, 7 to 5, closed Sundays. Find what you're looking for at East West Rental Center in Upper Tumon or call 646-1463.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Okay, so here we are. We all enjoy that big halftime show that we do every afternoon at 1700, the marching bands, the cheerleaders, the drill teams, and that barrage of cannon fire at the end. So I've got a couple pieces of paper in front of me. I've got a list of everyone who's running for senator, and I also have this this PNC story dealing with Senator Munya admits application for employment benefits was a mistake. And my first comment was, well, that mistake got Senator Munya a lot of earned media because all four outlets covered her, quote, mistake. She filed for unemployment because she had some gig employment, and she lost all of her gig employment when the lockdown occurred. So she applied because she lost that money. I guess temporarily forgetting that she makes $55,307 a year as a senator. Going to the article here, she said she withdrew her employment claim after learning that it's based on a cumulative total income, meaning her earnings as a senator disqualified her. Munya also stated that she's a sole breadwinner in her home and that ultimately any loss of income will inevitably affect her ability to provide for her dependents. Would you have ever figured that out, Real Joe Cruz?
No, sir.
You know, she may have made a mistake, but she's obviously got a mind like a steel trap when she said that she's a sole breadwinner and ultimately any loss of income will inevitably affect her ability to provide for her dependents. Yeah. So then she said it was a genuine mistake. So that's an interesting kind of mistake. I've made a mistake or two in my life. I never characterize them as genuine or non-genuine. So I went to the dictionary to find out what a genuine mistake is. And this is what I found out. Genuine means possessing the claim or attributed character, quality, or origin. Not counterfeit. So it was not a counterfeit mistake. Authentic. It was not an inauthentic mistake. Real. It was not an unreal mistake. And then as examples of how to use it, genuine sympathy. Yeah, I can understand that. So, you know, it wasn't fake sympathy or genuine antique. It wasn't some old table that you let sit out in the rain for a year so that it looks like it's an antique. A genuine case of smallpox. And then it can also mean free from pretense. So Senator Louise Munya didn't pretend that she'd made a mistake. It was a genuine mistake. Free from pretense, affectation, or hypocrisy. Interesting. So I guess I've learned something here. I never, ever in my 81 years thought that characterizing a mistake as a genuine mistake would have any bearing on the results of the mistake or the cause of the mistake. But I suppose characterizing it as genuine would tend to soften the sting. You know, it's one thing to say, come in, you know, you let your wife borrow your car and she runs out of gas, and you say, oh, geez, I made a mistake there. I forgot to put gas in it, and I forgot to tell you about it. I'm sorry. That's my mistake. That's one thing, right? How about this? You know, I didn't tell you that it was out of gas, and I didn't suggest that you buy some. This was a genuine mistake. So much better, right? So much better. Like those times, Real Joe, when you're horsing around in the back and that, you know, that plug in the wall that you pull out, and then we lose Facebook and everything else.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. and you say, well, it's just a mistake. Now you know what to say.
It was genuine, sir?
A genuine mistake. No one can get on you for making a genuine mistake.
You're right about that.
Yeah, that's what Louise did. Now, apparently that modus operandi works because May Habib of the Pacific News Center attempted to deflect some attention from Luis Munoz's genuine mistake by pointing us to the bigger question. And she says in the story, a bigger question in all this is how Munoz's application information ever reached the media. That's the bigger question. You know, not that Munoz did something really dumb that would embarrass anybody. That's not the story. The bigger question is, how did other people find out that she'd done something really dumb? And there ought to be some protection for that. You know, maybe when Senator Munoz is not applying for government benefits, she could draft a bill along the lines of, if any senator makes a dumb mistake, it shall be a misdemeanor for media outlets to publish information about the mistake if the mistake were genuine. How does that sound, Real Joe Cruz?
Fine, sir.
Yeah. Okay, I notice I got Jack on the line. Which drive-through is he calling from?
I'm not sure, sir.
He didn't he didn't say, huh?
He didn't say, sir.
Well, I'm sure he'll tell us. Jack, which drive-through are you calling from?
I'm just leaving work right now, Bob.
On your way to the drive-through?
Yeah, probably I go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I'm gonna do my part on protecting Colonel Sanders' statue there inside their dining hall.
Well, do you want to call back when you're in a drive-through, or?
I'm probably gonna walk in, Bob, because it's a lot faster.
That would take.
Have dine-ins, but it's a lot faster to place my order.
That would take all the fun out of it, Jack.
Yeah. I called because I was listening to you earlier about James W. Moylan there and the problems with the local Republican Party in general.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was just wondering, don't we have a coloring book for these Republicans?
We probably should.
Or something?
Yeah, we probably should. But now, nowadays, if you have a coloring book, you can only have one color crayon.
And what is that?
Black. Where you been, Jack? Black coloring books matter. Go ahead,
oh my
Jack.
Gosh. Yeah. So, anyways, I've been listening, and I'm just, I'm perplexed. But before I sign off, I just wanted to say happy 4th of July.
Thank you, Jack.
And Dinesh D'Souza just dropped a new book. I'm like 200 pages into it. There's a 300-page book. It's called The United States of Socialism. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend.
I'll give it a shot. Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, just a little brief about it. It's how you've been talking about identity politics. Dinesh speaks about identity socialism and how they managed to combine classical Marxism or classical socialism with identity politics. And so it's no longer rich versus poor. It's no longer workers versus, the proletariat versus the rich and stuff like that. It is now white versus black, man versus woman. It's now, about the sexist. It's about everything under the sun that you could demonize at one point or another. So it's a pretty interesting book, and he breaks down really. And this is a new thing to me because when socialism is always pushed here in America, they always say they want it to be a democratic socialism. And when you look at all the socialism that's failed, like in Venezuela and other areas, they have been democratic socialisms. So he points that out, and he points about, the thing about Scandinavia. He says, and I completely forgot about this, but he brought it up, and he says, the thing about the socialism in Scandinavia is that it predates Marx. And I was thrown back, and I kind of recalled that in my history. But he says that it predates, and he puts references there that the socialism predates Marx in that it's commune, that it's European commune systems, and where you had the regular farmers, the regular farmers and herders and stuff like that. They come together, form a commune. That its root is in that its root predates Marxism, and that's what makes it so successful. Is that that they don't discriminate, and it's pretty much a laissez-faire activity over there in Scandinavia. They could fire whoever they want. Corporate taxes are low. It's based on a VAT system, value-added tax. So actually, everybody pays their fair share. And the social projects that they have there, everybody pitches in. Nobody gets a ride for free. It's not like here in the U.S. where I guess if you make under $40,000, you basically don't pay any taxes or something like that. But he makes an interesting argument, and I recommend it. It's a good read. I'm not through it, but I'm 200 pages in, so I wanted to recommend that before anything else. But I also wanted to bring up about this the statue stuff that's been going on. So they're now up to Lincoln. They want to take down Lincoln. Yet Stephen Douglas's statue still stands in Chicago. Does that make sense to you?
Well, that's because they aren't the sharpest knives in the drawer. And if you ask them that question, they'd say, Stephen Douglas, who was he? Right? They only want to destroy the statues that mean something to people, right?
Yeah, they want a cultural revolution. That's what they want.
Yep.
So they want everybody to just say, all this stuff that you learned, and you're an adult now. They're all wrong, and this is the right way to go. So they want to wipe the face clear. I mean, even renaming our bases, it's just gone too far. But another thing is that for us that are conservatives, for us who are traditionalists, we're being kicked off platforms because we're not even violent on our views. We laugh at memes. There's nothing, and we're being kicked off platforms in which we should be able to express our opinions. And it's getting worse and worse out there. I don't know what else to turn to. A lot of my friends have just exited Facebook. They're no longer on Twitter. They definitely are out of Reddit. So, conservative thought, conservative opinions. I don't know where else to go.
Well, Tall Tales is still a bastion of truth, Jack.
Well, it's one step above that because it questions the truth. It doesn't assault it, but it questions it.
All right.
And so, it's 4th of July is coming up, and what I really hate is that we had Memorial Day that went by, couldn't assemble, couldn't put the flags up, but yet Black Lives Matters protest is allowed to display with no social distances out there at the ITC building. Nothing makes sense anymore. It's like, I have zero clue on what's going to happen, but
and of course,
Jack,
that's the object, to take everything that you rely on, everything that you know, all of the anchors in your life, and teach you that you were wrong, that they don't mean anything, that you've got a lot of learning to do, and you've got to learn a lot of new stuff. Forget about all that old stuff.
Yeah, and now, oh man, Jesus Christ is now being assaulted because apparently he's white. I had no idea. I'm just, it's just perplexing, and I feel sorry for most of these millennials because I think that they just probably their core values at some point of their education got twisted, and
well, of course, that was the game for the neo-Marxists going all the way back to the Frankfurt School to take over the schools, so that kids don't learn in school what they really ought to know.
Exactly, and you know, it's just a shame, and I'm glad that we live out here in Guam because we could view these things from a distance, but unfortunately, you know, like I said, we have people like James W. Moylan, and he's not the only Republican there. He's not the only, quote, conservative, unquote. There's a lot of conservatives that when Brett Kavanaugh went up for his confirmation, wouldn't touch the subject because it was too controversial. You have a man there fighting for his reputation and his life, and he had not one single conservative, except for you, Bob, that stood up for Brett Kavanaugh, and it's really sad. And that's what I mean. You're in the foxhole. You're trying to fight what is the problem, and then you have the person in your foxhole stabbing you with the 2% increase, 2 cents on a cup of coffee. You know, Brett Kavanaugh, he doesn't matter. Why do you why do you even bother with those types of people? And I got to tell you, I told you this before, that, what's his name? Evan Montville Cohen was correct over 20 years ago when he said that here in Guam, the parties don't matter because both sides are progressive. And whether you like Evan Cohen or not, you know, he hit the nail right there on the coffin. Because if you realize, you know, where the Democratic Party came from, how could you even consider yourself a Democrat? If you realize what the Republican Party stands for, or the conservatives stands for, I mean, it just amazes me. But anyways, I've been busy. I've been working. I got a lot of things on my plate, but I just wanted to wish you a very memorable and a very, happy 4th of July, because I don't think it's going to get any better with so many vices and stuff like that we're trying to get through here. Whether we rethink what money is, rethink what work is, what family is, it's just hard nowadays, and it isn't going to get any better.
Well, Jack, I always appreciate your calls, so we'll see.
Well, God bless you.
And same to you, Jack.
Bob, and I'll see you on the other side of the weekend. Have a safe weekend, and please raise that flag high and proud.
We'll do it, Jack. Thank you, sir. Okay, that's Jack. Jack made the supreme sacrifice. He didn't call us from a drive-through. Okay, so let's see. I've got about 10 more minutes until the 7th inning stretch, right, Real Joe Cruz?
Not really, sir. More like 4.
About 4?
You want to just go there now?
Yeah, let's go to the 7th inning stretch now, and then I'll come back to you, Michael, and you'll have a little bit longer time on the air.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at GuamTraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro in Hagåtña is taking your local favorite dishes and serve them with extra flair. Mezcla is ready to serve you and your family for your dine-in experience and takeout services. To ensure everyone's safety and comfort, Team Mezcla has taken further steps in maintaining a clean and sanitized area for you and your family while dining in. For more information, please call 479-2652 or 479-2653. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro, a true taste of Guam.
As we stand up to coronavirus by standing back with social distancing, Bank Pacific reminds you that you can come to the bank without going to the bank. Use many of our other delivery platforms like online banking at bankpacific.com, accessing cash at our ATMs, shopping with our debit cards. For businesses, we have secure cash and check drop windows, and we are employing a new smarter mobile app with remote deposit capture in the next few weeks. We're all in this together, and together we will win. Bank Pacific. Where others put branches, we place roots. Member FDIC.
Seventh inning stretch, Wrigley Field, Chicago. So once again, nobody in the stands, nobody on the field, nobody outside the park. Michael's on the line, so let's see what Michael has to say. Good afternoon, Michael.
Hi, Bob. Haven't spoken on Tall Tales for a while, but yeah, I just had a really short comment. Jack was asking, he's very upset with Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all those people. It's kind of like they discriminate. There's a new game in town. That's what capitalism is all about. And the new one's Parlor. And very, very civilized. Everybody's given the same set of rules. And it's a good place to go visit. Good place for information. So just wanted to pass that along.
It's
Otherwise,
P-A-R-L-E-R, right, Michael?
E-R.
Yeah. Okay.
P-A-R-L-E-R, Parlor. You can go to the Apple store if you use Apple and punch that in. And they have a lot of commentators. It seems to be more of a social media for news people than it does for little kids to trade crazy messages.
Good. I'll give it a shot.
Very serious. In other words, everything there is very oriented to the news and information and less oriented to chatting with your best friend down the street, even though you could just walk over and say hi.
Good.
So that's all.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Michael. I'm going to give it a shot. I'll let you know.
Yes, I highly recommend it. I'm not a social media kind of guy, and I was shocked at how I found it really, really informative, and it's just amazing. It's a wonderful platform, and I normally never, ever, ever recommend anything to do with social media. But this one is good. It's a serious media exchange of information. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Nice talking to you. Okay, so where was I? I was talking about Luis Muñoz. And let's see, one of our internet posters here has a pretty interesting comment. If I can just find it here. This is from Joe Pareto. So all her other mistakes are not genuine. Does she mean her colleagues' mistakes are not genuine? I guess from now on, Real Joes, we have to be really careful when someone says he made a mistake. We can't just let it go as a mistake. Was it a genuine mistake or a non-genuine mistake? This is really, really important. Okay, so when I left off with the saga of Luis Muñoz, I complimented May Habib, the reporter for the PNC News Story, who tried to kind of provide a little shelter for Luis Muñoz and her genuine mistake by saying a bigger question in all this is how Muñoz's application information ever reached the media with a senator saying she doesn't know how that breach of information happened. Wow. Okay, I got another call here. I've got our Fred on the line. Hello, our Fred.
Hey, our Bob, how you doing?
Good.
You know, I like the genuine, kind of liking the genuine word, or
nice
what was the other
word.
word you used? Genuine, or hey, can the private citizens, like, you know, when they get in trouble, the tax or with the law, can we say it was a genuine mistake and get a slap of the hand and let go?
I expect that every defense attorney on the island will adopt the word genuine, so that when he goes to court with his client and the judge says, "How does your client plead?" Well, he pleads guilty, Your Honor, but he wants you to know that he made a genuine mistake. Oh, is that it? Okay. Case dismissed.
Genuine.
Yeah.
I like that. Some people say it genuine.
Genuine, yeah.
Genuine. You know, there's a rap artist, I think his name is Genuine. If you're not sure, familiar.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I guess the same privileges should be afforded to the citizens, the public. Genuine mistake, an honest, genuine mistake.
I think I'm going to rule on that, our Fred, and I'm going.
You're a judge, yeah.
I am going. You got your gavel handy there, Real Joe Cruz? Okay. Let it be known by all presents that anyone who is a member of the Tall Tales International Radio Listening Audience Truth Posse who makes a mistake, no matter how grave the mistake, can be excused by telling anyone who is offended that it was a genuine mistake. So ordered. There you go, our Fred.
Wow, that's law.
Yeah,
that's
the law.
GC Act 435-AB 25.
Yeah, I'm sure the compiler will pick it up and put it in the books.
Genuine. Yeah, I mean, heck, the public's making they make mistakes too, and we gotta get off the hook.
I think I think November of 2018, we made 15 genuine mistakes in the legislature.
Yeah. You know, public officials, they should know the law. They make the laws, enact the laws. They need to know the law. They can't hide behind genuine.
No.
And I saw in the paper today there's the Department of Labor saying many people, there's some fraud, filings and so forth. And some dead people are also filing for unemployment. Did you know that? Dead people.
Well, if a dead person files and it's a genuine mistake, it's still okay.
Yeah, they should be given the chance to be alive.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a genuine.
You can't hold them for having a bad intent if they were dead, right?
No. So if you, and yesterday you did a lot of, I felt bad for you. I mean, that's on your throat. How's your throat today?
Yeah, it's one of those names that takes a certain amount of effort to repeat, doesn't it, Fred?
Yeah, and I mentioned to you before, just play my soundbite, the one I did a long time ago, so you don't have to stress your throat too much.
And I've got the list of candidates for legislature here, and number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Candidate number 6 is Marsh Kaitano Kelly G., Senator, Democrat.
We did it together, so it's more louder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's my 17 cents for the day.
Well, I'm glad you called, our Fred.
Genuine 17 cents.
A genuine 17 cents from our Fred.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob.
Okay, Fred. Good talking to you, Fred. So long.
Okay.
Well, that was our Fred. So I'm back again to a genuine mistake and May Habib's attempt to provide a little cover for Luis Muñoz. A bigger question in all this is how Muñoz's application information ever reached the media, with a senator saying she doesn't know how that breach of information happened. She was not the one to contact the media. and she sent her letter rescinding her application on June 20. Now, this is really a mystery. You know, how did that happen? So the story continues. There is a story in today's Post. Guam labor finds bogus claims for jobless benefits. Now, I suppose bogus is the opposite of genuine, right, Real Joe Cruz?
I'm not sure, sir. Could be.
Could be, huh? Yeah. So, labor, this is David Del Isola talking. Labor, he said, has been finding unemployment claims filed by people who have not lost jobs. He said it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out when a claim is a fraud and not just a mistake or oversight. I guess only rocket scientists can make mistakes then, right? So, Senator Raging Lee's Labor Committee held an oversight hearing on Guam on the Department of Labor's Unemployment Assistance Program. Lee and other senators pressed Del Islo if there's any investigation into a possible, now they're getting right to the issue. If there is a possible breach of privacy or confidentiality laws by any labor personnel. So they're going right to the heart of the issue here. Del Isola told senators that we learned about a possible breach of confidentiality or a breach of privacy. We quickly went down and started looking and investigating. Well, he didn't quickly get this program up and running. I guess that's not as serious as something that comes out and embarrasses a senator. To this date, there is no evidence that anything came out of my department. Del Isola said he likes to think the measures in place are strong. But he goes on to say, but of course, nothing is ever perfect in this island and this community. Well, what is he doing? Cutting us down? I assure you, as I assure everybody, that if we hear of any person that breaches this confidentiality or privacy, I will be the first one to make sure we forward those names to the AG and to the U.S. Inspector General for possible prosecution, he told senators. So you could see that the really important issue at this hearing on this pay program, you know, what happened? A senator was embarrassed. What are you doing about that? Well, we called the senator aside and we tried to work with her, but that didn't work very well. And then there's a subheading here, genuine mistake. Senator Luis Muñoz at the oversight hearing asked whether there have been cases similar to hers and whether there are options for them. So let me see if I could kind of hypothesize on what Senator Muñoz said. Here we are in the middle of an oversight hearing. Mr. Director of Labor, did anyone else make as stupid a mistake as I did by applying for these benefits when I'm making over $55,000 a year? Was anybody else that dumb? No, Senator. You were the only one that was dumb enough to do that. But I really apologize that everybody found out how dumb you were. I'll be with you in just a second here, another Joe. I want to finish this item up. And then the article goes on to say, Muñoz applied for and later withdrew her unemployment aid application. The senator said it was a genuine mistake. Genuine mistake. Adding a new phrase to our jargon here on Guam. Was it a mistake? Well, yeah, I made a mistake. Well, come on, tell us more. Was it a genuine mistake? Or was it a dumb mistake? The senator said she lost all her income from her business license as a musician and as a certified gym instructor, and didn't realize until later she is eligible to apply because she still has a job as a senator earning $55,000 plus that was not impacted by Wuhan virus. Now, earlier in the story, actually there were two parts to Senator Louise Munia's question. Senator Louise Munia at the oversight hearing asked whether there had been cases similar to hers and whether there are options for them. So this is what she said. Did anybody else make the dumb mistake that I made and try to say it's okay because it's genuine? And are there any options for people like me who make $55,000 a year to get some of this free money? That's basically what she said. Wow. Okay, so this item's going to remain on the card for a little while. It looks like, as far as the card is concerned, Senator Louise Munia is the gift that keeps on giving. And I hope you don't think that I'm not genuine as I make that comment. Okay, so we got another Joe on the line. This is another Joe's second ride, isn't it, Real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir.
For his second ride on the Ferris wheel, we have another Joe.
Yeah, Bob. I'm wondering, was it with Trump? They said that no press is bad press. And you said that she was covered by all the media here in Guam.
Well, that's the old saying that there's no such thing as bad press. Trump also.
Sorry, go ahead.
Trump also said that he could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and people would still vote for him. I don't think that Louise Munia is going that far, but I think she is highlighting her genuine mistake to see where that gets her. So we'll see.
Well, it looks like she shot herself.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, the theory is that it might vote pretty well because as a strategy because in the primary in Kebab there's no crossover voting, right? Otherwise you avoid your ballot. But who's to say that majority, usually Democrats have more voters, right? As far as percentage people who usually vote. So if you look at the numbers every year, so who's to say that a certain percentage of the Democrats say, hey, why don't a bunch of us just go vote for the least the more harmless of the Republicans, so to speak. It's kind of like that show Survivor, where they vote out the people who they feel most threatened by.
Yeah.
And they keep the ones that they don't feel threatened by. You know what I'm saying? So in this case, maybe it gets attention for us. Hey, that person in the opposition political party is not as much a threat to us, so we'll go vote for them.
Vote for the weakest candidate, right? Hope the weakest candidate gets the nomination.
I'm just saying, people who they think that they can work with, Well,
there are 16 candidates for the Republican nomination. So my projection is that because it was a genuine mistake, Louise will finish in the top 15, but it's going to be close.
Yeah, because she gets all that good press and media.
Yeah.
Right.
And then here's something else about the primary. No Democrat is going to cross over to vote for Louise Munia. Several Republicans are going to cross over because there really is no action in their primary, and they're going to weigh in on San Nicolas versus Underwood.
Ooh, good one.
That's the only real
primary.
Yeah, that's the only real contested seat in the primary. So you can bet a lot of Republicans are going to go and vote on the Democrat side.
Yeah, good point. So the real thing that I wanted to bring up, Bob, is I forgot earlier to say, hey, it's pretty much confirmed. I have a relative that confirmed that GMH does not have everything that they need. So someone needs to go and ask them what they need. Like a wish list They need scrubs. They need equipment. You know, we need to figure out what it is find out what they need. I don't know. What have you heard about?
Well, if they had management, we wouldn't have to be guessing about what they need. We'd know what they need. And what the management ought to do, what's her name? I don't even know, is it the general manager of the hospital?
Posadas?
The person in charge of the hospital.
I don't know. Is it still Posadas?
Yeah, her name is Posadas. Anyhow, what she ought to do is come up with a genuine list of what she needs and present it to the governor and the legislature. But it's got to be genuine.
Yeah, and then we can get it from wherever we have to get it from, whether it be directly from the Congress and the president and wherever they can get it from. But yeah, that's pretty much what I want to bring up with Bob is we need to pay attention to GMH because definitely that's something, you know, they're the designated Wuhan COVID-19 hospital, right?
Right.
So, hey, thanks a lot for your time, Bob.
Okay, Keith. Okay, another Joe. And I've got Keith on the line. I think what we'll do, Keith, is we'll do the home stretch formalities, and then you and I can ride down the home stretch together. So let's take that last break, Real Joe Cruz.
Family Finance has been serving the people of Guam since 1959, and they'll continue to be there for you in the years to come. Whether you're looking to get a personal loan for that summer vacation or paying off those long overdue bills, Family Finance has got you covered. Apply for a personal loan from $1,000 up to $3,600 by calling Family Finance in Agutya at 475-4545, Upper Tumon at 647-5626, or in Dededo 633-4473. Family Finance, serving the people of Guam since 1959.
If you've ever struggled for breath, you know what a scary experience it is. Whether you have asthma, emphysema, COPD, lung cancer, or another respiratory illness, the right medical treatment makes all the difference. GRMC's Pulmonology Clinic has the latest technology and respiratory equipment, staffed by world-class pulmonologists. Make an appointment today with GRMC's Pulmonology Clinic and start breathing easier. GRMC, where patients are partners.
Gawad ko business rapo dari suksesan iyo sukusiker COVID-19 SWOS. SWOS fiare semua coronavirus ira pada sibo sabuera ria warau fitne virats seria kyo sabtsa niwats. Sibo sabuera ria beseves puri live report water kisi peuts. May fakuret sea at sibo rosits ngiri kyo sidesin ika pesepes seribon. Sibo feriwisats arabi kisirat suran semua coronavirus. Klitzkie poros kekeri uriat Esiresin afito seriatsu office Micronesian Resource Center Eco Radio Station Not Choice Broadcasting Mewa U.S. Department of Interior Office of Insular Affairs.
Talk Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
So here we are, Churchill Downs, Louisville, Kentucky, the home stretch on Tall Tales, and Keith is going to help me ride down the home stretch, right, Keith?
Yeah, how you doing, Bob? Good afternoon.
Sure.
I have a genuinely hard time believing that Ms. Barnes, a senator, does not know what she did. I have a real hard time doing that. But, you know, anything's possible. So I guess then the question boils down to, is she a genuine liar or is she a genuine idiot? But I suppose it's really, you know, it doesn't really matter because either way, does one want to vote for a person where those are the two options?
You know, Keith, I think I got to step in here for a second and give discredit where discredit is due. It's Senator Luis Muñoz that we're talking about here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Muñoz.
So discredit where discredit is due, right?
I misspoke.
But it was a genuine misspoke.
That's right. It was a genuine misspoke on my part.
Yeah.
But the question still stands. If your options are she was too ignorant to know better, or B, she's lying, either way.
Not much of a recommendation, is it, Keith?
Exactly. I hope people are paying attention.
Yeah, I can see, we're introducing a bill that has catastrophic consequences, and when she's questioned about it, she'll say, well, it was a genuine mistake because I didn't know what I was doing. So give me the benefit of the doubt. Let me go on that one, okay?
Yeah, what do they call that in golf? Not a do-over.
Yeah, it's somebody's name. Mulligan.
I forget.
A mulligan.
Mulligan, that's it. That's it. She gets a mulligan.
She gets a mulligan. Yeah. Yeah, because that first drive off the tee was a genuinely bad drive, right?
Precisely. So I guess maybe we shouldn't come down too hard on her.
Whatever you say, Keith.
Take care.
Okay, Keith. Thanks for calling in.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's an interesting analysis. It's I suppose a voter who would want to vote for Luis Muñoz caught on the horns of a dilemma. Should I just say, well, she didn't know any better, so it's a genuine mistake and it's okay, or she caught in something embarrassing, so she kind of had to fudge the truth a little bit, but it's okay. Either way, it doesn't come out very good, does it? We got another item on the card here that I can at least start before the end of the program, and it's kind of cut from the same cloth. And it has a similarity. I don't know where May Habib got this line talking about Senator Luis Muñoz and then saying, a bigger question in all this is how Muñoz application information ever, what business are you in there, May? But anyhow, same kind of thing here. We got a media organ that is a little bit loose with the stuff that they say in print. I have the press release from the Archbishop of Agana dated June 30. Archbishop Burns discontinuing monthly honorarium to Bishop Apparon. And it's the third paragraph. Bishop Apparon was found guilty of sexual abuse of minors by the Vatican's Apostolic Tribunal of the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith 2 years ago. Bishop Apparon appealed the initial findings in 2018, but the Vatican announced on April 4, 2019, that the tribunal had upheld the sentence of the first instance, finding Apparon guilty of delicts against the Sixth Amendment with minors. And then it talks in terms of the $1,500 monthly honorarium, etc. But the key sentence here is upheld the sentence of the first instance, finding Archbishop Apparon, the Archbishop guilty of delicts against the Sixth Amendment with minors. Okay, then I look at the Daily News story, and when we get to the second page of what I'm looking at here, the victim survivors see this honorarium to a credibly accused violator of delicts against the Sixth Amendment as contrary to justice and a continuation of the abuse they suffered at the hands of the clergy, Richard stated. Apparon was found guilty of, quote, delicts against the Sixth Commandment. Did I say amendment earlier? Yeah. Well, it was a genuine mistake. I was going to say commandment, but I spent so much time talking about the Second Amendment that it was my bad, Real Joe Cruz. Apparon was found guilty of delicts against the Sixth Commandment with minors, which Burns previously said means Apparon is guilty of adultery, rape, breaking the rules of chastity, and other serious crimes, essentially sexual abuse of minors. So the first word there in that ejustum generis list, adultery. Now, Apparon has been accused of some pretty heinous activities, but this is the first time I've heard adultery mentioned with respect to Archbishop Apparon. So it's interesting that the release from the Chancery says delicts against the Sixth Amendment. I mean, hey, Bob, come on, get with it. Program starts at 4 o'clock. The Sixth Commandment. Now, I happen to have the Sixth Commandment right here, and this is what the Sixth Commandment says. You shall not commit adultery. That's what it says. So it's interesting that the church that used the term adultery, because adultery means the illicit sexual relationships, sexual relationship with a married person. And that used to be really very clear what that meant up until the Ogerfell case. Not so clear anymore. I'm going to come back to this on Monday. It's an interesting story here that needs a little bit more probing. So the real Joe Cruz and I are going to tough it out. Almost 4 days and no tall tales. We'll survive. We'll see you Monday afternoon. Have a nice 4th.